Today we're going to be talking about what happens when you have ADHD mixed with dopamine. So when you have, so first we're going to touch bases on what dopamine is. So dopamine is a crucial neurotransmitter or chemical messenger. So what that means is it sends messages to let you know that if you want to get motivated or the pleasure, or if you wanted to learn, to help you retain the information, to help get up in life or get up in the day. It helps with the mood. It helps with. It's pretty much a reward center. So with ADHD, I have ADHD, by the way, so I kind of understand a little bit of what I'm about to tell you. If you have ADHD, maybe you understand. Maybe if you have a kid or if you have someone with ADHD, maybe this can help you understand them. So ADHD and dopamine, when they go together, they usually they counteract in a way. Dopamine, the good levels are hard to get sometimes. You have to really focus on that. But let's end the video with the good side. So what we're going to do is we're going to just start with the bad and work our way to good so you guys can tell the difference and what that includes. Low levels are like linked to depression, fatigue, lack of motivation, and difficulty focusing. That's the brain fog in ADHD. That means the difficulty focusing is a big thing with ADHD. It helps with like the factor of when you're doing say your kid's in school or you're in high school or whatever, right? And you want to sit there and focus on history, but history, all the rest is reading. You have to want to do it. With ADHD, it gets harder because it's hard to focus more because for me anyway, this is something with my ADHD, focusing, it was easier to do math than it was history or English or stuff like that, because in a way I felt like this is something I've reflected over the years too. I was understanding it more, and there was more point in me doing it because I was getting something out of it, and I was actually upgrading my life to do it. And reading or history, I feel like sometimes this is me reflecting too on myself as I'm talking about this. It feels like, especially in history, because you're just talking about the past days, right? It was hard for me because I'm not getting anything out of that with my life. I don't want to be narcissistic or whatever. This is not what I'm trying to get at. That's not what I meant by that. What I mean by I'm not getting anything out of it, they are. In my brain, the way it was working when I was in high school, and mostly high school, I was phenomenal in English and everything when I was in kindergarten and all the way through probably, I want to say 8th grade. But when that ADHD really hit was whenever I hit high school, 9th through 12th. And I had to have people read it to me. I had to have, that helped me comprehend what they were saying, because they would re-say it sometimes, but when I would read it, it would be 6-7 times before I would actually understand, or even a slight bit of understand what I was talking about. But what I'm trying to say with that is, with dopamine, if you can get something out of it, then it's easier. Say the math. I got math like that because every time I answered a question right, especially with money, I'm phenomenal with money. But that's because I sat there and every question I did in algebra, calculus, whatever, every time I got a question right, I feel like I did something because I'm gonna take that beyond talking about like money or dimensions on BMX, because I got into that a little bit ago, which is another thing with ADHD. When you have ADHD, you tend to hyper focus, is a way that most people call it. That's what I call it now. But I didn't know what that meant or even knew that term until briefly a year ago. Hyper focus is another subject, but I'm going to talk about that for a brief second. Hyper focus is when you sit there and you can do something for 2 hours, and sit there and focus on it. And if someone gets you out of that term, it messes everything up. But say, because I draw and I listen to music and then I get in the habit of drawing, and then I'm really into it and I can get stuff done. But as soon as that hyper focus goes away, or someone interrupts that, it takes forever to get it back sometimes. That's what I get upset, but I've got better at that over the years. But what I'm trying to say with going back on the term of dopamine versus ADHD, or dopamine with ADHD also. The high levels, restlessness, it can lead, let's just say this. The part of ADHD and high levels of that, because I have both, so I can say both. I have the high levels and the low levels because it counter interacts, but restlessness, anxiety, impulsiveness, tremors, that's one I don't have, and aggressive behaviors. The impulsivity, the anxiety, and the restlessness is something I get a lot. As you see right here, I'm moving, fidgeting. That's ADHD. If you see someone fidgeting with their hands when they're just doing normal tasks, or they sit there and they do random noises sometimes, that's ADHD. That's the restlessness, or sometimes impulsivity for buying stuff. I used to have that. I've got a little bit better. Even though I'm phenomenal with money, I could sit there and do math all day. Like my first time multiplication question was the 1,000 times 1,000. If you can't believe that, I don't know what to tell you. But I literally learned 1,000 times 1,000 before I learned anything about 2 times 2. Which is kind of like, what? But I know, right? I thought the same thing when I remembered that. Like, I asked the teacher, I can probably tell you what 1,000 times 1,000 is, just guessing. I kind of knew what multiplication went, but this is before I knew the zero method too. I kind of guessed. Yeah, I guess it's not answering it, but with ADHD, dopamine is a big part of ADHD. And sometimes I feel like it can cause it, or low levels or high levels of dopamine can cause the ADHD to hyper focus, or just right, or low levels. Just depends on what's going on will make stuff happen. Like your low levels, it'll be when it's dark outside, or it's raining outside, snowing outside. Sometimes snow can be a little good for some people. But for my hobbies, like my skateboarding, my BMX, snow, that's a downside for me. It just depends on what you like and what you're taught, what's going on, and what you like doing and stuff like that will happen with your ADHD and what your type of ADHD is. Like, I don't get the tremors. I don't have I had aggressive behaviors when I was a child, but I've got better at that over the past years. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I might make another video on this, updating a little bit more to see what I want to do, but that's pretty much it. This has been nice talking about this and getting this stuff off my chest. Thank you. Like and subscribe if you like this video. Thank you. Bye.